Hello and welcome back to the chapters series of my life. This one here is a great one because this one here I'm going to share about how I started my business, my first business while I was still at high school at the age of 16. Like I wasn't even able to vote, but got an ABN and got set up. And my first business, surprise, surprise, was a web design business. So this is very, very early while the internet was still emerging. I was what would it have been like 2001? So it's 2001. So early 2000s. I got my first computer. I learned about internet. It was all dial-up back then. Yes, that's how old I am. That's good old dial-up internet. And while I was at school, I could see this trend emerging that was this internet and people were building websites. And so within the journey, I've got some like show and tell in this video as well. But this book here is a book that I got, and I've kept it for this long because this is kind of how I taught myself how to write HTML code in a notepad editor and build very, very basic websites. And so I remember putting an ad up on Gumtree, and people were finding it and reaching out to me. And I was building websites for like internet service providers. I was building websites for logistics companies, a rubbish removalist, a olive marinated company. Like I still remember all these. And I was doing this over doing my schoolwork, which is maybe why I didn't get the best results at high school. But I realized that this is the way the future was going. And one of the things that has been quite evident, and as I tell more and more of these chapter stories, is I do have this kind of pattern detection that enables me to see trends before they happen. And so the internet was coming around. I've already told the chapters about how I was like downloading music and sharing it with friends and burning CDs in a previous video. But this is kind of where I went all into business. I've got some notes here because this one's a bit of a big amount of information to keep my head around everything. But it was called Rapid Web Design. And I remember the name kind of came because I was driving around the streets of Hawthorne and there was a rapid cleaning company. And I drove past it and went, oh, I like that. Oh, Rapid Web Design. Because I'd been thinking about how to name the business. Originally, there was another business name that was very stupid. But I didn't like that one. And I'd actually registered that business name. It was called Shooter Websites or something. It was from Happy Gilmore, Shooter McGavin. It was so silly now that I think about it. But, I was just looking for something to build a business around. And that was the first one. Oh, I think I might even have the business card still. I might get some bonus material at the end and show you. Yeah, anyway, I still think I've got the original business card. I used to print them from Publisher back in the day on business card paper and cut them out manually. That's how old school and raw it was. But yeah, Rapid Web Design was the first business that I kind of call official, and that was in 2001. So I didn't finish school in year 12 into 2003. So I was in year 10 doing this. So trying to study, building websites. And I remember even like going to the depths of getting like a 1-300 number. And so I signed up for this contract. There's a pattern here. You'll see a few patterns where I kind of go all in. And it took me a little while to learn the lessons to like go slow and steady. But I got a 1-300 number and I had a full like call system. Like when you would ring that number, for web design, press 1, for hosting, press 2, for domain names, press 3, and all numbers came back to me anyway and rung like a landline that I had got connected at my parents' house because I'm still living at home in these days, obviously at high school still. And so, these are just examples of like where I went, this is going to be the business that I do and go all in. And so, yeah, I built websites. I was getting clients at like the age of 16, 17, 18, like before I'd even gone to uni, like I was getting clients. I had a full invoicing system. I think back then there was no kind of fancy online SaaS services like what there is today. But back then I was using MyOb. and it was a computer-based program, and the data file would be stored on your computer, and you would protect it with all your life because like that was your whole, there was no cloud syncing or anything like that. And so this was my first introduction, and I kind of really taught myself business. Like there was no MBAs back then, but what this also kind of made me realize is that you really learn a lot just by doing. Like if you start executing, and I had no idea what I was doing. I was so young, naive, ignorant. I was, getting bank accounts set up, ABN numbers. I think at one point I even then set up a company and had a full company structure, and the business was running within the company structure. Learning about tax returns and things like that. So like I couldn't even vote, and yet I was running a business online, which was quite fun. But I learned how to do like sales. I learned how to do client management. I learned how to do delivery. I built my kind of confidence. In fact, I probably sometimes think I was more confident then because I was like young, naive, and like had no bills and just kind of like living off the parents. But I used to just kind of go to networking events and meet people and kind of pitch them websites. I'd had to learn how to like negotiate, and yeah, it was really, really fun. But I also want to share this other little show and tell, because before Google and search engines even existed, you would have to go like to your news agent and buy the World Wide Web directory. Now this is from 1998, so that's how early I was getting on the website. So this is even before starting the business. About 2 to 3 years, you would go to the news agency and pay $2.95 and buy a directory, and it would just be like a list of websites, and you would manually type them in. And some of these websites have long URLs because the internet was just kind of getting created. And so it was all broken up into categories. And so this was the Google before Google even existed. And I've held on to this for so long because I feel so nostalgic about it that like I have this like little bit of evidence that proves that I was on the internet in 1998. And when I was sharing this with one of my friends recently, he was like, you're kind of like one of the first people in Australia to have the internet. I was like, wow, that's actually a really good point. And so, yeah, I don't know why I have something in my throat today. And what I realized in this is in this phase is that I had to learn like filing systems. I had to learn client management, and I would only contact clients after school because I'm still working. And it also taught me how to build systems, how to be efficient, effective. I needed to I had very little time. And somewhere in this chapter as well, which will be my next video, I also started working at KFC. So I'm doing high school, running a web design business, and then having like a real job to at KFC, and then transition into uni. So it was quite busy, and I was doing a lot, and that's also made me realize that I have been kind of going at full throttle for a very, very long time in my life. And so digital was really early and natural for me, and I kind of always grew up on computers, and it's probably why I'm getting to a point now where I want to do less with computers, because I feel like I've been on this screen kind of world for about 25 plus years of my life. And I feel like I've done everything, and now you've got the whole AI wave happening as well. But while that's quite exciting, I'm not sure whether I want to run a business around that. I think it's really cool for me to use the tools and to and know that they're coming. But yeah, rapid web design was really a great learning canvas for me to just really throw mud and see what sticks. And also taught me that I can be quite resourceful. Like I don't need to know how to register an ABN. I worked it out. I even remember I didn't know how to buy domain names. And so I bought my first domain name, which is rapidwebdesign.com.au. I still own it because nostalgic me wants to keep it. And I remember the first time I purchased that, I purchased it for 10 years. I was like, this is going to be a business forever. Like I found the thing that I'm going to do. And so I registered the domain for the first time for 10 years. And it was like a massive discount, like the longer. All right, now that I'm back from my choking exercise. Yeah, I registered for 10 years. 1300 number, 10 years. And the 1300 number was also in a 2-year contract. So like I wasn't able to like get rid of that 1300 number, and I had to pay a monthly fee just to have a fake push one. I think it was also me like trying to be bigger than what I was. I felt like, um, if people rung this 1300 number and there was like, they call it an IVR system, but like push one for this, push two for that, it would feel like I'm a big business and that I'd made it. But yet it was going to my bedroom on a landline. It's kind of hilarious when I look back on it now. But yeah, it kind of makes a lot of sense where the image that was being projected was trying to be one thing. Anyway, but there's you can't hide behind that kind of stuff anymore, because it's all very transparent, the world that we live in. But yeah, so that was really fun. And then what happened is I had a whole handful of clients. I had hosting requirements, domain name requirements. And back then, business owners were not as savvy as they are now. And even these days, sometimes business owners still don't have this savviness. But like all the renewals would come to me, and like I just had all this admin, and I felt really heavy about like keeping websites online, hosting servers. People would forget to like renew things, their sites would go down. They would ring me about why their iPhone wasn't working or their like VCR wasn't working, because I was like their tech guy. And so it got really heavy with the amount of like tech support and things I needed to do to keep people's businesses online. And I was running this as a solopreneur, or like as a solo person, for a very long time. And then there was a particular point where a mate of mine and I were kind of hashing out like some new business ideas, and we launched a new business called Kudos Digital. And what we did is we merged Rapid Web Design into Kudos Digital to be a nice segue of all the clients and make sure that they were looked after as I was kind of stepping away from wanting to kind of do a web design business. I can't remember the full timeline. It's all on my LinkedIn if you really want dates. But yeah, just really want to like share like that this was the catalyst of me running my first business, kind of building this identity of like a business owner. Maybe entrepreneurship was kind of the identity that came from this as well. And it also allowed me to, I guess this was a really good training ground for me to learn all the basics of business, resourcefulness, but also having the ability to quick launch a web presence was a real big game changer in a lot of the projects that I'm going to talk about coming up. Because what I realized later on is that building web presence when you had like a new business was a large leap that a lot of business owners needed to take. However, I was able, and have many times, launched businesses like overnight. And we're probably back at that now, because you can just prompt AI to like launch a full basic website in 15 minutes. But in the early 2000s to mid 2000s, every time I had a new business idea, I could do all the marketing within a couple of days. And so that was like a real kind of secret sauce, I guess, or like a little secret weapon that I had to able to quick launch a whole bunch of different websites and businesses. And, I would just kind of tinker online. I built a whole bunch of websites just for fun, on hypes, on trends. It was very fun to be able to like get an idea and make it come to life. I kind of realized later on that websites was kind of my digital canvas. And so while other people might tinker with like painting or drawing or other things, that was my way of tinkering. I really loved having like an idea and seeing it come to life. And it kind of set the pace later on in life as well, where I really do love the new project, new startup, like that new phase and chapters of business and projects. The idea, workshopping them and getting it launchpad and launched, rather than what I've realized later on is that the longer I stay in a project for too long, and it comes out of creativity and more into like management and ongoing cogs turning, I'm not in my sweet spot anymore. So my sweet spot is really like new projects, getting them launched. And over the years, a lot of my friends and family and others have seeked me out to be a bit of a guide or a mentor in that phase. Like I can tend to see like where there's some gaps in the market and what needs to be solved. And sometimes people don't listen, especially if I give advice of like something like don't go down this path. Not everyone always listens, and sometimes they go down that path and they realize that that gap wasn't really something that needed to be filled. Rapid web design also was a way that I was able to meet other business owners and kind of like associate with them and see how they ran their business. And that kind of started my networking effect that kind of happened about, being around different business owners and their startups and their, because normally when someone's coming to you for a website, it's like a new business idea for them as well. So I've been around a lot of that startup, new idea to launch phase. And it really is something that gets me excited and I love it. So yeah, just on that note, what I realized in reflection of this is that digital was never like the destination. Even though I've done a lot of digital projects, it was a training ground. Rapid web design was a fast track MBA that I didn't even know I needed, didn't even know that that's what it was. I see people go and do MBAs today and they get out of that and they really struggle to get employment. They struggle to get jobs. They can't, do consulting because they're not equipped or they're not confident enough. And so this is like just jump in the deep end, learn how to swim. And I've always said that starting a business, even if it does fail, is much better than any formal textbook education of an MBA. So I'll leave you with that thought. The next chapter is going to be about KFC days. Is it? Or maybe I've already done KFC. Anyway, because the last video I made of this was like 2 months ago and I've kind of done a bit of a pause. But I want to get all these videos kind of bashed out because, I want to move into my new series, which is Becoming Ray Milladoni. And so, I just need to close this loop because I need to start finishing what I say I'm going to do because I've got way too many half-baked projects. So on that note, make sure you check out the next video. Who knows what it's going to be about? That's probably the worst hook to get you into the next video, but I'm just winging this. I have no idea what I'm doing. No one actually knows what they're doing, but we're all doing the best we can. So until that one, check out the next video or check out the past video. And as I've said in the last videos, I'm just doing these as a bit of like a journal mind dump for myself because it's really nice to go down memory lane and remember like how much stuff I've actually done when I'm in this like new career pause kind of phase of my life of like not knowing what my next kind of projects or moves are. So this is a little bit of, down memory lane and nostalgic remembering for me. All right, on that note, take care and I'll see you in the next video.